All right, so rotaries, let's stick to the repainted panels, not on the cars. But I do want to see everybody do it. So we have three or four tools. So we'll just have to fight over them.
Not on the panels, on the cars?
Not the cars, yeah. If you want to answer to that guy, go for it. So you saw on the presentation how to prime. So priming is super important with no matter what tool, what pad you're using. If you don't prime that pad properly, you're not going to get what we call peak performance. So you want the best performance on your first application, you have to prime first. We're going to go with smaller diameter. We're going to start with the yellow. This is our fine polishing pad and our fine polishing polish. And we're going to focus on technique. So what I want you to do when you first start is don't worry about getting defects out. We want to fine tune our technique first and then step it up on aggressiveness. Here's our rotary. We have three options for handles. So there's a D handle. This is absolutely fabulous on the sides of cars. So you have a lot more control on the side with a D handle. This is one of my favorite ways to do this kind of approach. You can also have no handle, or you can have a side handle. This is very much a personal preference thing. The more you guys rotary, the more you'll figure out what you like and don't like. But the good thing about our system is we have accommodated all those preferences.
The handles are usually like an afterthought. These were like a full separate development project onto themselves, so they are really, really nice.
In fact, this one, Guido had some input, right? Yeah.
That was Guido's design, yeah.
So it looks like a steering wheel grip, like on a sports car steering wheel. It's pretty cool.
And that's the one that comes standard.
Yeah, that's standard with the tool, yep.
All right, so how did it say to prime the pad? Remember, it was a long time ago.
Pick up a bead.
Yeah, it's called picking up a bead. So the bead of product really should be about the diameter of the backing plate, whatever backing plate size or pad size you're using. So, and then you think of this as a clock face. So 10 into a clock. That is where you want to pick up this bead across this disc. So this is a little bit complicated to figure out at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's very easy. So you want to go from your right to left. If you go from left to right, the direction that this is moving, you will take this product and throw it right about waist level all the way across here. Do you believe me? Because I can demonstrate that.
Yes.
No? Sure. So you want to take it from your right to left because the direction of the
Rotary demos in the academy.
the direction of the rotation, you'll actually suck it down into the center of the disc instead of throwing it away. So how this works is you position the pad at the 10 and 2 o'clock if this were a clock face. You'll want to give it a 45-degree angle like that. You're going to pull the trigger on speed setting 2, and you're going to wait for that to come up to speed. Then you're going to pull this across the bead, and right when you get to the end of it, you're going to quickly lay it down. So it's one single motion. Boom, down like that. That's how you do it. You want to see it again?
I'll make a gift.
So, in theory, if you do that, you won't have any sling, in theory. And then you can't, see how much of it was in the center? So in theory, this should be a little swirly mark that goes right down in the center. But that's how you pick up a bead. And to minimize sling, you can actually, if you push down a little bit and compress some of that foam, it will, not throw as much. If you're very light-handed and you just let this spin, it'll throw product everywhere.
Also, don't ramp your speed up until it's. Do it
Yeah.
at 6. Don't go speed 6 right after you do that.
Well, our priming speed for all of our tools is speed setting 2. It doesn't matter which tool, you always prime at that speed setting. So that's how you do that. If you did the 4 dots thing, if you did the X thing with rotary, it would throw product. It's that simple. So this is why we say pick up the bead, because it tends to be the way that you sling the least amount of product. All right, so once you're primed, what we want to do is I want you to think in terms of 6 passes. And a pass is start at one side, go to the other side, go back is 1. That's a pass. So I want you to think in terms of 6 passes. You're going to go 3 this way, change directions, and do 3 that way. And the amount of space is as wide as your shoulders. That's how you want to confine this. You don't want to be doing this with a rotary because you'll sling product and you'll have uneven application. So actually count your passes. 3 this way, 3 that way, and then stop. We're going to go to speed setting 4 is our operating speed. So if you were counting, that was 6 passes. And we did not get our sanding mark out, which was fully expected because this is a very fine polish. But that really is the technique. Now there's a couple other things I got to show you about rotary. One is on edge work. So when you get to the edge, and like some people did sand all the way to the edge like right here. If you're trying to get that defect out with this tool, there's some things you need to be aware of. So if I were flat pad doing this right here, what would happen?
Burn the edge.
Correct. Why? How am I generating heat?
Because you're not balanced.
Oh, it's balanced.
So, what do you mean? Like,
How am I going to burn this edge by doing this?
He's going
because you keep hitting it.
Yeah.
As it's spinning, right?
So this is rotating in one direction only, right? So on this side of the pad, I am rolling off the paint. But what's happening on this side? I'm coming into this. And this is the high heat, high friction. I'm going to be plowing into this thing. So, tilt it up. Now what happens?
I was rolling off.
I'm only rolling off and I'm not heading into it. So I could actually do this for a long time. And actually not burning this edge. But if I was doing this,
Even if you could hold it there long enough.
sorry, did I get you?
That's okay.
So you can see why that's not a good idea. So the point is, make sure that your direction of rotation on your pad is rolling off the
That's
paint.
true of these two, not just this, but up here. So if you're gonna try and take this out,
So how am I going to do that? Am I going to do this? No. I'm going to do this. Anyway, you have to think about it. Sometimes you have to stop and actually think about where it's rolling off, but that's how you do that. But who can think of a better way than what I just showed you?
Use a smaller or a 1 inch.
Exactly. Nano 1-inch pad. Flat pad all the way around. Easy. This can be done, but it's more risky and you have to learn technique. Yeah, so for now, just focus on this technique. Pick up a bead, priming. 3 passes this way, 3 passes that way. Don't worry about what you're getting out, what you're not getting out. Let's just focus on technique. Now with this diameter, you can be flat pad. The bigger diameter you go, the that it's a challenge to do what I just showed you. Learn on this diameter. Once you master this, then you can go out. I'd recommend those of you that want to develop this skill really well, like you really want to master rotary, get some car parts and practice, practice, practice. Don't practice on your car, your neighbor's car. This is something that once you burn, how much does a burn through cost? Does anybody know?
$1,000.
1,000?
Depends on the
Times
car.
2.
It's multiple thousands to refinish a panel on a car. So it's not a little mistake, it's kind of like, oops, a big one. You will want an apron because, don't ask me how I know, but somebody's gonna sling for it.
That's what we're starting with. Pretty typical panel. So here's the plan. I clearly have zero rotary experience, right? The only rotary experience I have is with you a couple of times. So we have a pretty typical black door that has some pretty typical swirls and scratches, and it's not terrible. But this would be similar to what I would encounter at in one of my cars.
Yeah.
Black paint though. So what I want to figure out is, could I rotary this? So could I cut and then finish with a rotary? So I'm going to do what I think I should do, and you're going to fix it. I'm gonna tell you what to do.
Well, first thing is you should hire it out to a professional.
But since we don't have that option, so we have different size. This is the medium size, right? Am I going to be able to handle this big pad? This is my.
Well, so you have a lot of flat, wide open spaces. We should be okay.
Okay.
Down here, you might get into trouble with that pad.
So since I already showed the camera where we're at here, where would I start? So should I start on blue, or do I not need to go that aggressive with this? Would I start yellow?
I would suggest yellow for a couple reasons. One is the severity of the defects really isn't calling for a heavy cutting pad. Mm-hmm. And the other reason is just as a strategy, do the least aggressive method. So,
see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a yellow. What size are these pads? These are, what is this backing plate? What are our sizes?
That's a 5.5-inch backing plate with a 6-inch pad.
Okay.
6.5-inch pad.
Okay.
And you can center by the centering hole, or you can center by this out diameter.
So looking pretty good. Okay. Now I'm going to use yellow and yellow. But now I'm going to try to grab a bead on this sucker. This is going to be rough.
You think?
I don't know. We're going to see. So I'm going to prime it the same way that I would on a flat panel.
Yeah.
On the hood.
But you have gravity working against you. So,
This is going to go really poorly.
so I'm going to stand over here.
So I'm going to section this out. So I'm going to start here. Now, how big do I change the size of the section? Versus what I'm used to with DA?
Well, your first step is priming that pad. So ignore the section size for the moment, because your first objective is let's prime that pad.
Okay, got it. So I'm just going to pick a spot. And I'm going to do one of these deals.
And
Make
grab
a
it.
huge mess.
Go.
So we're going to have
And I'm in the wrong place.
speed 2, right to left.
Nicely done.
No, what else?
You all right?
So,
He says, yeah, of course.
yeah, I wasn't worried about that. So,
So
what do
now
I do
you-
to prime additionally? Do I need
Yeah, I
more?
want to actually show that. So the right to left got you this pattern, so it's sucked down into the center of the pad, which is what you want.
But so do I need more?
You know, you're primed pretty good in this. You can probably start.
Start another
Yeah.
bead and then go. So would you treat this section?
Yeah, so your application area, you take this diameter and it's 6 times that diameter. So you're looking at an area like this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna do the easy part first and then we'll work on the harder part.
Sure.
Because this, I mean, one of the cool things about it is that if you had multiple pads, multiple sizes, I could just throw on the smaller backing plate, couldn't I?
Absolutely, and that
Do
would
that.
be the better approach, especially with rotary.
Because in this test, I'm assuming this is the only thing I got. So I've got to work out this. I'm assuming I don't have
Other-
3-inchers and BAs and all that stuff laying around. This is my only option.
Gotcha, okay.
All right, so I'm gonna make another bead. Speed 2, set it up. I'm gonna come up to 4.
If you want to, you don't have to. So do you want me to stop and talk to you, or?
What am I doing?
Okay, I want you to look at this footprint.
I know, I'm like this. I'm only getting half of the pad on.
Yeah, so you every pass you make, you pay attention to
I want to get a
the
nice
width
flat.
of that footprint. So the width should be as wide as this pad.
Right.
And if it's not, it is 100% because of pad angle. So you have to look at the shape of your panel and where your body and the pad and everything
This
is.
is kind of this is typical. This is kind of an awkward angle. So at least it is for me and my height. So how would you hold this darn thing? I mean, my natural tendency is want to come back here, but it doesn't really work as well for a rotary. Do I need to be pushing down on this thing, or just let it do its thing?
Put enough pressure to you don't have to go to that speed if you don't want to. Yeah, you got it.
I feel like a brand new baby trying to walk. You have no idea what I'm doing. There we go. Do another set.
Watching it run.
Yeah, because I did 3 up, 3 back.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens here. So my main consideration here is, can I, first of all, why would I do this? I'm struggling with why. But what would be the point of doing it this way? If you were an expert's expert, could you do a better job with this than with the DA that's sitting right next to me?
It's an important question. It depends on your knowledge and skill set. If you have the skills with Rotary, it does a fantastic job at defect removal. But then it's always best, as a matter of strategy, to switch to a dual action polisher to finish out the job.
So it looks a little hazy to me.
Yeah, so you
looks a little milky.
Your camera probably can't pick it up, but there is a hologram and a swirl mark in there. It's a light one, but it's there.
Now, let's see if I can clean that up with white. So clearly I don't need blue.
No.
And that was pretty quick. A couple of passes.
And actually, Matt, that you could have actually dropped this down to 1,000.
Which would make it a little easier to manage.
So once you're primed, you can actually, some people prefer to put the drops on the pad if you feel like you have a little more control that way. But see, that speed is a lot more manageable. So just because somebody told you to crank this up to 4, and it might have even been me, but when you're starting to learn this tool, start with the smallest pad diameter you can tolerate and the lowest tool speed. You can get a lot of control with it, right?
Yeah, I'm so wanting to manhandle this thing and control it rather than letting it.
So how is that? Better?
A little bit, yeah. Maybe around there. Let's see.
So your question's a good one, why? And it seems like this particular paint with these defects, you're doing the finishing products with Rotary, right? So that's a fine foam pad, it's the fine polish. And I would agree with you, if you're in this stage of the game and you're refining fine defects, why not just pick up a dual action random orbital and do the job? But the skill set you're learning right now, if you can learn to do this, then if you had heavy defects, you could
Be more
apply that.
efficient.
You could apply that skill and do what you're doing now.
Because I mean, I didn't do jack because of those scratches that are right there. Whatever I did.
Oh, I can't see him at this angle.
It's like, this is what happens. I'm like, well, I'm going to do this whole panel. I did like 1/10 of it, and I could go and finish this in 5 minutes.
With the dual action
With a proper
round,
tool.
yeah. Well, Rotary has its place. Now, this particular scenario with fine defects, you probably don't need that.
I'm already giving up. Like, why would I even do this? I just convinced myself we were going to get around here and we were going to figure out how to do this, but what's the point?
Well, the one point that I just made was
Heavy defect.
if you can learn the technique in this scenario, in other words, fine polish, fine pad, then apply that skill in the heavy duty defect area. There is a point to it. If you can refine, if you can work on this with Rotary, and then do the very final step with random orbital, and you learn how to do that procedure, it will come in handy on that time that you have. We've been talking earlier about oxidized gel coat, sandy marks. That's where this thing comes in handy.
So on condition like this,
I personally wouldn't use Rotary on this.
in a reasonably scratched, but just
Yeah.
a simple, this would be a simple, to me, 2-step.
Yeah.
Probably
Random
wool,
orbital.
wool and a
Yeah.
mild compound, and then, a finishing polish of some sort.
Yeah.
And we'll see what it looks like. You probably have to play with combinations of how much polish, how many passes, because it is black.
Yeah.
And so we probably have to play with, I'd be playing with that to find what worked best.
But you've already talked yourself out of it.
Yeah. And I was pining hard to go the whole way, and I'm not gonna do it. I might try for a bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, off camera. So anyway, I wanted to share that on camera and kind of play with this and figure out what made sense. Anyway, you guys can go back to work. I'm not gonna do this.
I picked up both beads.
Yeah, I can't stay flat that way. Come on. So, faster or slower?
No, your arm speed is good.
Just cleaning up the paint a bit.
You might do well with that smaller diameter because it's actually easier to keep it flat with the smaller diameter.
I think I can get it. Crazy haze.
So you got the scratches out of it.
There's a little bit left of a really deep one there, but a bunch of them down here that I yanked out. So you just deal with the fact, this would scare most people out of there. If I made it 20 times worse. It looks 20 times worse than it did before. Right? I mean, manual.
But I don't think this is the right scenario for justifying Rotary.
Yeah. Newish car, no oxidation, not a lot of really heavy scratches, maybe a few isolated scratches. You'd almost be better off chasing them with a nano rotary.
Right, exactly. Well, you had to try it, right?
So, now we're all hazed and hologrammed now. I got the deeper scratches out. Man. So I've got all the deeper scratches out, but now I've got holograms and a lot of crazy swirls going on here. So I'm going to do this upper section, and then I guess I'll do the lower section, and we'll come back and I don't know what I'll do, but I'll figure it out. all that. So now, could I put white on there, really slow speed, clean that up?
I don't think so. I think you need a little more bite than that with this slow mark.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Let me try to see if I can fix it with the rotary, and then I'll clean it up real quick. That's gnarly right there. That'll scare you if you don't know what you're doing.
Beautiful artwork, though. Well, look at that.
I still have a lot of remnants of the blue pad. Little type tick marks from my blue pad.
Yeah.
Alright, I've had enough. Need a VA. So much better. So much more control. It's like magical. Smoother, easier.
Not quite as bad.
You get it though, I have a little better understanding now. But it's very different. I lead on the rotary, I feel like I'm leading with this hand. This hand's guiding. Now it's the opposite, I'm leading, this hand's just guiding.
In the body shop level, I don't know why they don't adopt this. And most of them, they're real resistant to doing this.
Yeah.
And they'd rather do it rotary.
Easily able to get the rotary induced swirl marks out. That's for sure. Alright, so 92 steps later, it looks basically like it did when I started. So, I don't know, I probably need to do a white step, play with a few combinations. Still looks a little hazy to me, but it's black, so. Anyway, it was a good little exercise playing with the rotary. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, to the floor.